Hey guys, here's a couple questions you guys had for bioenergetics as far as review. So I really thought they're good ones, so I was going to talk on them a little bit. First one, obviously, how does genetics come into play with body composition no matter what we diet or exercise? Now, it's always going to be a confounding factor. It's not like you've got genetics where no matter what you do, you're always going to have a high amount of fat mass or a high amount of lean mass. It just gives us predispositions. This means you could effectively starve yourself down to where you have very little fat mass. Now, is this healthy? Is this sustainable? The answer to both of those is unequivocally no. So, yes, genetics are going to play a part of it, but what we're doing with our training, what we're doing with our nutrition is going to allow us to manipulate our genetics. You could arguably call it gene therapy because we're expressing certain genes more than others, which in turn is going to give us a different type of physical presence and body composition. So, yes, genetics are going to influence things. There's some people that are naturally very lean. There's some people that are naturally not very lean. There's certain people that naturally carry a large amount of muscle mass. There's certain people that naturally carry very little muscle mass. Most of us are somewhere in the middle. And what we're going to find is, like anything else, if we're willing to put in the work and we're willing to find the diet and the training style that gives us the results we're looking for, we're going to obviously have the results that we wanted. However, it doesn't cost the same for everyone. Certain people, it's going to require a much more aggressive training program. Others, it's going to require a much more aggressive nutrition program. And you need to be thinking about the long term, which is what is someone really going to sustain. So don't give up because of, you have the genetics that predispose you to one thing or another. Instead, that just helps us inform our decisions and think about, well, what do we need to work on in order so we can have whatever level of physicality we're looking for. Now, the relationship between performance and body comp tracking, this is a really big one. It's going to be a bell-shaped curve with a long tail. So what this means is that there probably is an optimal body fat percentage to have for any given sport, too low, and now we're risking injury because, well, we don't have enough body fat, we don't have enough padding, we're going to have some other negative health outcomes. Too high, and now we're carrying a bunch of extra weight that doesn't help us out. So if we were to look at long distance athletes, if you're trying to be a really good long distance athlete, yes, you need to be more on the leaner side, which is why most people, when they start with a long distance training program that were otherwise untrained, are going to become better long distance athletes because they lose weight. But at a certain point, the reward that they're getting from losing that weight is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller until it actually starts to give us a negative return, because now we're losing contractile tissue. Now we're not feeding all of our systems and our cells like we need to, so we're not going to perform as well. So we have to keep in mind that we need to figure out where each individual athlete tends to perform the best. And this is going back to our first question, down to genetics. Some of us naturally are going to perform better in certain endeavors at a higher percentage body fat, and some of us are going to perform better at a lower percentage body fat. But the key is we need to think about how well is our athlete performing and how healthy is our athlete going to be at that body fat percentage. So you definitely do want to have, you at least want to track it somewhat, specifically when we're working with athletes, not so much as a punitive measure. It is there so that we can figure out, okay, this athlete actually tends to compete best at we'll say a female athlete competes best at a 22% body fat. You're not going to win any bodybuilding shows at a 22% body fat. However, if that's where they play soccer the best, softball the best, basketball the best, etc., keep them there. There's no point in trying to get them to lose more body fat than they don't have as much padding. They are maybe having some issues with hormonal production, some other issues that could be going on in the body. Instead, let's focus on finding out what is that optimal, the top of the bell curve. So, should you compare weigh-ins daily, even though there can be a large discrepancy from day to day? This is the reason why you want to do them daily, because you get an idea of the athlete's natural fluctuation. This is sometimes referred to as the Z-score with your athlete, meaning you're going to take the standard deviation. So if you know your athlete typically is going to be up or down 5 pounds every single day, well, you've got a good indicator of, all right, it's very normal for them to have some weight volatility. We're just trying to figure out, okay, if this athlete's normally up or down 5 pounds, so let's say they're flexing around 150 pounds. So they'll come in one day for 147 and a half, the next day 152 and a half. If they come in one day at 155, we have questions. What's going on? Are they somehow hyperhydrated? Are they constipated? What's going on that they have this extra water retention? And the antithesis is true. They come in at 145. Did you have the flu? Do you have diarrhea? Is there something going on that you're not able to keep on weight? Are you really dehydrated? And that's going to let us know we should probably pull things back that day, or at least ask questions and figure out what's going on. Because like anything else, not all athletes are going to want to give you that information. And sometimes they can be losing weight without really any deliberate attempts to do so. It could be because of stressors on in their life, could be because they haven't kept to their eating schedule, could be because you've increased the training volume and intensity, but they're not eating appropriately for it. Either way, it's when the athlete normally fluxes between this range, and then all of a sudden we have them up here or down here. That's when we need to ask questions and figure out what's going on. So you can weigh them in relatively frequently. Now we're getting also into psychology. We're getting into what is going to be acceptable for these athletes to maintain for long periods of time without creating any type of negative relationships here. So there are times and places to do this. You do need to make sure that you're doing it in an intelligent manner. And talking about what I just talked about with the athlete, we're not doing this to embarrass you, to punish you, to anything like that. We're doing this to make sure you stay healthy. And when you're dealing with female athletes, depending on where they're at in their cycle, they're going to have water retention, which is going to cause weight gain. So that is just going to be another way that we know, like, hey, you're normally between these numbers. We don't care what numbers are. Maybe not even tell the athlete what number they are. Just like, hey, we just want you to weigh in. We just want to figure out what's going on. Most affordable way to track body fat is honestly just take your own girth measurements, take a picture of yourself in your swimsuit. Just doing that and tracking that over the long term, that's going to give you an idea of what's going on. In general, if your upper arm measurements are increasing and your waist is staying the same size, you're probably gaining lean mass. If your waist measurement is increasing, your arms are staying the same size, congratulations, you're gaining body fat. Now, obviously, there's some variability here, but you don't necessarily need to go get a DEXA, go hop in a bod pod, or use any other type of technology to figure out your body comp if that's not really, if there's not really a big litmus that you need to do so. There's some sports, if your body fat's too low, you're not allowed to compete. But instead, what you should focus on is figuring out ways that you can track your progress. And progress pictures is probably one of the easiest ways to go ahead and do so, that you're going to be able to see how your body changes with time. And you're going to be able to, go ahead and not have to worry about going someplace, spending a lot of money. So thank you guys for your good questions. You guys have yourselves a great day and keep reviewing for our final exams. Bye-bye.